If your children don't respect and ignore you, stay calm and listen to this. There's nothing more painful than feeling invisible to the people you love the most, especially your children. When you've given your heart, your time, and your support to them, it can feel like a knife to the heart when they ignore you, disrespect you, or stop listening to you altogether. It's like a wall goes up between you and them, and no matter how hard you try, it's almost impossible to break through. Have you ever been there? When your children stop acknowledging your presence or turn a deaf ear to everything you say. But what if I told you that there's a way out of this emotional struggle? What if I told you that you don't have to just accept this painful distance, that you can actually rebuild respect and restore your relationship with your children, no matter how long it's been this way? In this video, we're going to dive into some powerful strategies that can help you deal with this situation when your children disrespect you and ignore you. These are the 7 essential things you need to know to reclaim your relationship, your respect, and your peace of mind. Trust me, these strategies will not only help you reconnect with your children, but will also bring you a deeper understanding of how to handle this difficult phase in your life. Whether you're a parent of a teenager or even an adult child, these tools can help you rebuild communication and strengthen your relationship. But before we dive into the solutions, if you've ever felt this kind of pain or frustration in your relationship with your children, hit the like button right now, because you're not alone. Subscribe to our channel for more insights and advice on relationships, family dynamics, and how to heal and grow together. And share this video with someone you know who might be going through the same thing, because no one should have to feel isolated when they're struggling with family relationships. And hey, tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. Is it a quiet night in your living room, or are you watching while trying to figure out how to make things right? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Now, let's dive in and find out how to start taking those crucial steps to mend the relationship with your children, rebuild the respect, and take back control of your emotional well-being. Before you can truly begin to rebuild respect and communication with your children, it's crucial to understand what's driving their behavior. It's easy to feel hurt, frustrated, or even angry when your children are disrespectful or ignore you. But before reacting emotionally, it's important to take a step back and ask yourself, why are they acting this way? Understanding the root causes of this behavior is key to resolving the issue. At first glance, it might seem like your children simply don't care about you anymore. Maybe they seem completely uninterested in what you have to say, or they brush off your attempts at connecting. But there are often deeper, underlying reasons behind this behavior that aren't always immediately obvious. Children, whether they're teenagers or young adults, are dealing with their own emotional struggles, and sometimes this manifests as a lack of respect or disregard for authority. Stress from school, peer pressure, or social challenges can leave them feeling overwhelmed and disconnected. In these moments, they might act out or shut down as a defense mechanism. It's not necessarily about disrespecting you. It's about them struggling to deal with their own emotions. If your child is going through a tough time emotionally, this could be why they're acting the way they are. Particularly in the case of teenagers, disrespect and ignoring behavior are often tied to their developmental need for independence. Adolescents are in the process of figuring out who they are, and this can lead them to push back against authority figures like parents. They may test boundaries as part of this process of separating themselves from childhood and asserting their autonomy. This phase is often difficult, but it's a natural part of their growth and development. They might be less inclined to listen to you simply because they're trying to establish themselves as individuals. Sometimes, the problem is simply a communication breakdown. If you've been struggling to communicate with your child for some time, their ignoring behavior could be a sign of frustration. Perhaps they feel that you aren't listening to them or that you don't understand their perspective. This can create a sense of resentment. The more they feel unheard, the more they may shut you out. When communication becomes a one-way street, it's easy to fall into the trap of passive-aggressive behavior, where instead of discussing the problem, they simply start to ignore you. It's also important to consider the influence of friends and peers. Children, particularly teenagers, are highly influenced by their friends. If their peers are encouraging certain behaviors or attitudes, it can make them act in ways that are disrespectful toward you. In addition, peer pressure, social media, and the desire to fit in can weigh heavily on their minds, distracting them from their familial relationships. They might be more focused on their friendships or trying to impress others, leading them to ignore or disrespect their parents. Sometimes, the way you and your family communicate can contribute to the situation. If your household is marked by arguments, tension, or poor communication, it's likely that your child is mirroring this behavior. Children often learn how to interact with others by observing the relationships around them. If they see conflict, dismissiveness, or disrespect modeled in the home, they might adopt those same behaviors in their interactions with you. Once you've acknowledged that there may be a variety of underlying causes for your child's behavior, the next important step is to approach the situation with empathy. It's easy to get angry or upset, but remember, this behavior doesn't mean your child hates you or doesn't love you. Often, it's a reflection of what they are going through rather than a direct attack on you as a parent. It's important to separate the behavior from the person. When your child disrespects you, it doesn't mean they are inherently disrespectful. Instead, it's a signal that something is wrong, either with their internal emotional state or with how you're communicating. By seeing their actions through this lens, you can respond in a way that is compassionate rather than retaliatory. Before you can help your child, it's important to recognize and understand your own feelings. Being disrespected or ignored can make you feel rejected, powerless, and hurt. These feelings are valid. However, acknowledging your own emotions helps you manage your responses. Instead of reacting out of hurt, you can approach the situation with a level head, ready to address the issue calmly. Start by asking yourself questions like, what exactly am I feeling right now? Why does this particular behavior upset me so much? What can I do to ensure that my emotions don't dictate my reaction? Understanding your feelings allows you to approach your child with more empathy, creating the opportunity for healing rather than escalating conflict. The last piece of understanding the root cause is to gain perspective. Try to put yourself in your child's shoes. What might they be going through? How might the challenges of their day-to-day life affect their ability to engage with you in a respectful way? This doesn't mean excusing disrespectful behavior, but it helps open the door for conversation. If you can show them that you understand their struggles, they may be more likely to listen and, in turn, respect you. If you found any of this advice helpful so far, don't hesitate to hit that like button. It really helps us continue bringing you content that makes a difference. And if you're thinking, I could really use some more tips on improving relationships, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on our latest videos. If you know someone who might be going through something similar with their children, go ahead and share this video with them. Together we can build stronger families. The next step is to focus on rebuilding the communication between you and your child. This is where the real work starts. But before we get into how to fix the relationship, understanding the cause of the issue lays the foundation for a healthier, more productive dialogue. Once you've taken a moment to understand the possible reasons behind your child's behavior, the next step is to look inward and consider how your actions, reactions, and communication might be affecting the situation. It's not easy to accept that sometimes, as parents, we play a role in the breakdown of respect or communication, but the truth is, we all do. And recognizing our part is the first step in mending the relationship. Parents are often deeply involved in their children's lives, and how we interact with them can shape the way they behave. Sometimes our own frustrations, stress, or even unintentional behavior can push our children further away, making it harder for them to respect us or open up. That's why self-reflection is critical in turning things around. Self-reflection helps us step outside our emotional reactions and take an honest look at how we're contributing to the dynamic between us and our children. The truth is, the way we handle tough situations, our communication style, and how we express our emotions can either encourage or hinder respect. If we're constantly angry, impatient, or critical, our children will likely mirror those behaviors. On the other hand, if we approach the situation with empathy, patience, and understanding, we create an environment where respect can grow. Taking responsibility for your own actions doesn't mean that you're to blame for everything that's gone wrong. but it's about recognizing the power you have as a parent to either help or hinder the situation. Once you understand your role, you can begin making small intentional changes to improve the relationship. One of the most important aspects of self-reflection is asking yourself, am I modeling the kind of respect I expect from my child? It's a tough question to face, but it's essential. Children, especially as they get older, learn by example. They watch how we behave in difficult situations, how we speak to others, and how we react when things don't go our way. If you're consistently disrespecting others, getting frustrated, or speaking harshly, your child is more likely to imitate that behavior. For instance, when you're upset, do you raise your voice, criticize, or close off emotionally? Or do you try to calm down, express your feelings clearly, and listen to the other person's perspective? How we handle frustration, conflict, and disappointment sets the tone for how our children learn to interact with us and others. If we expect respect from our children, we need to show them what respect looks like in action. It's about treating them like equals, showing them empathy, and demonstrating the value of open communication. Even though we're the parents, we should strive to model the behavior we want to see in them, including patience, kindness, and active listening. Another key element of self-reflection is examining whether we are truly listening to our children. Often, we think we're communicating, but we're actually just speaking at them. We give commands, make statements, or criticize without ever taking the time to understand where they're coming from. Children, especially teenagers, want to be heard. They want their opinions and emotions to be acknowledged. If your child feels like you're not listening or valuing their perspective, they'll begin to shut down. This doesn't mean they agree with everything you say or do, but it does mean they need a space where they feel understood. By listening to them without interrupting, offering advice immediately, or jumping to conclusions, you open the door to deeper communication. When children feel heard, they're much more likely to return that respect and engage in a meaningful dialogue. Start practicing active listening by reflecting back what your child says, asking open-ended questions, and giving them space to share their thoughts. For example, instead of saying, "You shouldn't feel that way," try saying, "I hear you're frustrated. Can you tell me more about what's bothering you?" This simple shift shows respect for their feelings and opens the door to better communication. Sometimes our reactions are more about us than they are about our children. We all have emotional triggers, certain things our children do or say that hit us hard and cause us to react impulsively. When we react from a place of frustration, anger, or fear, we tend to escalate the situation instead of resolving it. This only increases the emotional distance between us and our children. It's important to recognize these emotional triggers and find healthier ways to respond. Instead of reacting immediately, take a deep breath and pause. Try to understand why something they did upset you so much. Is it because you feel unappreciated, unheard, or out of control? By understanding your own emotional triggers, you can prevent them from dictating how you interact with your children. This doesn't mean you should suppress your feelings, but rather approach the situation in a more mindful, calm way. For example, if your child rolls their eyes or refuses to listen, instead of immediately getting defensive or punitive, take a step back and assess the situation. Ask yourself, what's the best way to handle this without letting my frustration take over? Sometimes, this may mean taking a moment to cool off before continuing the conversation. Conflict is an inevitable part of any relationship, but how we handle conflict determines the long-term health of that relationship. If we constantly handle disagreements with anger, frustration, or avoidance, we reinforce the idea that difficult conversations should be feared or avoided. But if we model calm, respectful, and constructive conflict resolution, our children will learn to approach issues with maturity and understanding. Ask yourself how you typically handle conflict. Do you shut down and ignore the problem? Do you try to control the situation and dictate what happens? Or do you approach the conflict as an opportunity for growth and understanding? Showing your children that it's okay to disagree and discuss differences respectfully helps teach them how to handle conflict in a healthy way. Instead of yelling or escalating, try to approach conflicts with a focus on solutions. When tempers flare, try saying something like, "I understand that we disagree. Let's take a break and come back to this with fresh minds. This gives everyone the space to cool off and think before reacting. Finally, practicing patience and compassion is essential. Parenting can be exhausting, and when things go wrong, it's easy to feel overwhelmed or discouraged. But it's important to remember that rebuilding respect and communication is a long-term process. It won't happen overnight, and that's okay. Before we dive deeper into how to make lasting changes in your relationship, take a moment to like this video if you're finding value in what we're talking about. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. Also, if you know a friend or family member who's struggling with their own relationship, share this video with them. It might just be the support they need right now. By being patient with your child and compassionate toward yourself, you create an environment that allows for growth and healing. You're not perfect, and neither is your child. We all make mistakes, but it's through showing patience, kindness, and understanding that we rebuild trust and respect over time. One of the most crucial steps in restoring respect between you and your children is rebuilding communication. When communication breaks down, everything else in the relationship starts to falter. Without effective communication, misunderstandings and negative emotions build up, often leading to further disrespect and emotional distance. But the good news is, communication can be rebuilt, even if it feels impossible right now. It's about finding ways to open the lines of dialogue, approach each other with empathy, and establish a foundation for honest and healthy conversations. The first step in rebuilding communication is realizing that it's a two-way street. It's not just about what you say, it's also about how you listen. Often, when there's conflict or when children become distant, parents tend to focus on what's being said wrong or not heard. Instead of jumping straight to accusations or criticisms, try to create a space where both of you can express yourselves freely. For children, especially teenagers or young adults, there is a deep desire to be heard and understood. If they feel like they're constantly being lectured or dismissed, they'll shut down even further. But when parents genuinely listen, without judgment, children are more likely to open up. This isn't about agreeing with everything they say. It's about showing that you value their perspective. One of the most powerful things you can do when trying to communicate with a child who ignores or disrespects you is to create a safe space for dialogue. Children, especially teens, are more likely to engage in a conversation if they don't feel like they're being judged or criticized the moment they speak. So, how do you do this? When you try to start a conversation, ensure you are calm and not already frustrated. If you're feeling angry or upset, it's okay to give yourself a few minutes to breathe before approaching your child. Let them know you want to talk, but make sure to do it in a non-confrontational way. Avoid jumping right into the issues that are bothering you. Instead, approach them with a gentle tone and an open mind. I've noticed we haven't been talking as much lately, and I really miss our conversations. Can we talk? I've been feeling a little disconnected lately. I want to understand what's going on with you. This approach makes it clear that you're coming from a place of concern, not anger or frustration. It's tempting to begin a conversation with, "Why are you so disrespectful?" or "You never listen to me." But these kinds of statements only push children further away. They're not likely to listen or respond when they feel like they're already being accused or blamed. Instead, try to frame the conversation in a way that focuses on how you feel, not just what they've done wrong. "I feel like there's some distance between us lately, and I don't want that. What's going on? I've noticed you seem upset, and I want to understand what's happening. Can you share with me how you're feeling?" This opens up the dialogue without making them feel defensive. It encourages them to express their feelings without fear of judgment. After you've started the conversation, it's time to listen actively. Listening doesn't just mean hearing the words your child says. It's about truly understanding their emotions and the underlying reasons behind their behavior. Active listening involves giving your full attention, being patient, and showing empathy. Here are some ways to listen actively and encourage deeper communication. Give full attention. Ask clarifying questions. Validate their feelings. Reflect back what you've heard. Even if you don't agree with everything your child is saying, it's important to validate their feelings. Validation means acknowledging that their emotions are real, even if you don't fully understand or agree with them. Saying things like, "I can see why you'd feel that way," or "It makes sense that you're upset," shows that you respect their perspective, and this can open the door to more honest conversations. It's important that the conversation goes both ways. Too often, we as parents have a tendency to dominate the conversation, giving lectures or solving problems without fully involving our children in the process. But real communication is a two-way exchange. Ask for their input and allow them to express their concerns or frustrations with you too. One way to encourage a two-way conversation is by asking questions that invite your child to share their thoughts or feelings. For example, "I've been feeling like there's tension between us. What do you think is going on? I want to understand you better. What would make you feel more comfortable talking to me?" The goal isn't just to fix the problem right away. It's to show your child that you value their opinion and want to work together to understand one another. It's essential to understand that your child might not open up immediately or may not express everything they feel at once. It might take time for them to fully trust you with their emotions. However, starting the conversation and setting the tone for open communication is key to building a stronger relationship. Be prepared for moments of silence or even resistance. Your child might feel guarded or hesitant to share. That's okay. What matters is that you've created the space for them to speak when they're ready. When communication starts to flow more freely, the next critical step in rebuilding respect and trust with your children is setting clear boundaries. Boundaries are not just rules. They are a way of showing that you respect both your child and yourself. They help to create a structure that fosters mutual respect and provides a sense of safety and security. Without clear boundaries, children may feel that they can get away with disrespect or inconsiderate behavior, while parents may feel overwhelmed, frustrated, and unable to regain control. Setting boundaries is not about being authoritarian or controlling. It's about establishing rules that are fair, clear, and consistent, while still maintaining an environment of love and understanding. Boundaries help ensure that both parties are heard and that each person's needs are respected. But the key is to set boundaries with love, which means that they are communicated with care, consistency, and mutual understanding. When we set boundaries, we are teaching our children that respect must go both ways. Respect isn't just about listening to them. It's also about being clear with our own needs and expectations. Boundaries are about protecting your emotional well-being and showing your children that you deserve respect, just as much as they do. When you set limits, you're showing that you care enough to maintain healthy dynamics in the relationship. Boundaries create a predictable environment for your child. Children thrive when they know what to expect, when the rules are clear, and the consequences of their actions are consistent. This doesn't mean rigid control over every action, but rather creating a framework that helps them understand what behavior is acceptable and what isn't. Consistency in enforcing boundaries helps children feel secure, knowing they are in a safe environment where respect is a priority. Sometimes children ignore or disrespect their parents because they haven't learned healthy limits. In some cases, parents may even allow certain behaviors to slide, leading children to believe there are no consequences for bad behavior. Setting clear boundaries helps eliminate confusion and establishes respect for both your authority and your child's autonomy. It's not about controlling them. It's about showing them how to behave with respect toward others, especially in the home. Setting boundaries requires a blend of firmness and kindness. The goal is to create an environment where everyone's needs are met without sacrificing mutual respect. Here's how to set boundaries with love, rather than imposing them with anger or frustration. A boundary that's vague or unclear is not a boundary at all. Instead of saying, "You need to be more respectful," be clear and specific. "I expect you to speak to me politely." If you feel frustrated, take a deep breath and express your feelings without yelling. This clarity removes any ambiguity and ensures that everyone knows exactly what is expected. It's important to explain why the boundaries are in place. Children are more likely to respect rules when they understand the reasoning behind them. Rather than just saying, "Because I said so," explain the purpose of the boundary in a way that makes sense to them. "I expect you to be home by 10 p.m. because I care about your safety and want to make sure you're protected." I need you to stop using your phone at the dinner table so that we can enjoy our time together as a family. When children understand that boundaries come from a place of care, they are more likely to respect them. Boundaries are only effective if they are consistently enforced. If you make a rule and then don't follow through when it's broken, your child may begin to feel that the boundary is negotiable. Make sure that there are fair consequences if the boundaries are ignored or disrespected. For instance, if your child ignores their curfew, the consequence might be a temporary restriction on their social activities. The key is to be firm, consistent, and fair. But remember, consequences should never be punitive in nature. The goal is to help your child learn from their mistakes, not to punish them out of frustration. The consequences should be natural and related to the action. If your child speaks disrespectfully, the consequence could be a timeout for reflection or a conversation about respectful communication. If they neglect their responsibilities, a fair consequence might be taking away privileges like screen time or outings until they meet the agreed expectations. Boundaries are not one-sided. You need to model the kind of behavior you expect from your children. If you expect them to speak respectfully, show them the same respect in your own actions. If you want them to control their tempers, model patience and calmness in the face of frustration. Children are highly perceptive, and they tend to mirror what they see. If you're setting boundaries but don't adhere to them yourself, it sends a mixed message. For example, if you tell your child they cannot raise their voice or yell, but you react with anger and raise your own voice when upset, it will undermine your boundary. Show your child that you also follow the same rules you set. As children grow older, they develop a desire for independence. While it's important to set boundaries, it's equally important to respect their need for autonomy. Instead of being overly controlling, allow them to make decisions within certain limits. For example, if your child has a problem with school or their social life, encourage them to come up with solutions rather than solving everything for them. This approach respects their growing independence while still setting clear expectations. Now that we know how to set boundaries with love and respect, it's important to identify the types of boundaries you should establish. These boundaries will vary depending on the age and stage of your child, but here are some common ones to consider: building respectful communication, personal space and privacy, and time management and responsibilities. Setting clear boundaries with your children is an essential step, but boundaries alone are not enough. The real work begins once these boundaries are in place. You must continue to build trust and mutual understanding through continued communication, consistency, and love. In the next section, we'll talk about how to develop a deeper, more respectful relationship by focusing on trust and emotional connection, the true foundation of any successful relationship. Now that you've worked on setting boundaries and improving communication, it's time to shift your focus toward one of the most important elements of any relationship: trust. Trust is the bedrock of a strong, respectful relationship, and without it, no matter how many boundaries you set or how much you communicate, the relationship will remain fragile. Building trust and fostering affection with your child doesn't happen overnight, but with patience, intentionality, and effort, it's entirely possible. It's the key to restoring and maintaining respect, and it's the step that will ultimately bring you closer to the relationship you both deserve. Trust is built on the understanding that you have each other's best interests at heart. In a parent-child relationship, trust allows for open communication and emotional connection. When your child trusts you, they feel safe to share their thoughts, fears, and emotions without fear of judgment or punishment. This leads to a deeper understanding of one another, fostering a more intimate bond. Affection is just as crucial as trust. It's the emotional glue that keeps a relationship strong, especially when things get tough. Affection doesn't just mean physical touch. It's about showing care, concern, and emotional warmth. This can be through kind words, spending quality time together, or simply showing interest in what your child is doing or thinking. Affection helps to bridge the gap between generations and creates a sense of security and comfort. Trust is not something that can be demanded or forced. It must be earned over time through consistent actions. If your child has stopped trusting you because of past mistakes, it's important to understand that trust is rebuilt gradually. It's not a quick fix. You may have to work for it, and you may face some setbacks along the way. but consistency is key. One of the most powerful ways to rebuild trust is to lead by example. If you expect your child to be honest with you, you must model honesty yourself. This means being transparent about your own feelings, admitting when you're wrong, and being open about your intentions. If there has been a history of dishonesty or broken promises, start with small, consistent steps to show your child that you are reliable and trustworthy. Trust grows when promises are kept. If you say you'll do something, make sure you follow through. Whether it's sticking to agreed-upon boundaries or simply showing up for an important event in your child's life, reliability builds trust. For instance, if you tell your child you'll be at their school event, be there. If you promise to spend quality time together, make it happen. Each promise you keep reinforces the idea that your word is reliable, which fosters trust over time. Another critical part of building trust is being consistent in how you respond to situations. If your child knows that you will always respond with empathy, understanding, and fairness, they will feel more comfortable opening up to you. If they see that you are inconsistent, sometimes responding with anger, other times with calmness, they may begin to feel insecure and hesitant to share their feelings or concerns. Consistency doesn't just refer to how you enforce boundaries, it also applies to how you handle emotional situations. If you've made mistakes in the past, perhaps by breaking trust or mishandling a difficult situation, apologize sincerely and take responsibility for your actions. This is an essential step in rebuilding trust. Apologizing is not about placing blame, but about showing your child that you are aware of how your actions have affected them. A heartfelt apology can go a long way in mending the rift between you. I know I didn't keep my promise to you the other day, and I'm really sorry. I understand how that might have hurt you, and I'll make sure to do better next time. By showing vulnerability and taking accountability, you demonstrate emotional maturity and create an environment where your child feels safe to express their own feelings. When trust and affection are present in a relationship, respect naturally follows. It's important to remember that building trust and affection is a continuous process that requires consistent effort, vulnerability, and empathy. It's about showing your child every day that you care deeply about their well-being and that you value them as an individual. When your child feels emotionally supported and secure, they are much more likely to return that respect and care. In the next section, we'll discuss how to maintain these important aspects of the relationship by being consistent and patient, ensuring that the progress you've made continues to grow and strengthen over time. When it comes to rebuilding a relationship with your children, especially when there has been disrespect or emotional distance, consistency and patience are your most important allies. Relationships don't transform overnight, and neither does respect. It's easy to get discouraged, especially when the changes you hope to see don't happen immediately. However, patience in your efforts, combined with consistent actions over time, will create the foundation for a stronger, more respectful relationship. Consistency means that you are maintaining the same level of care, effort, and boundaries day in and day out, regardless of how your child may react initially. It's about creating a predictable, stable environment that allows both you and your child to know what to expect from one another. Consistency creates a sense of security, something everyone needs to feel safe, understood, and respected. When you're consistent, it shows your child that your commitment to them and to the relationship isn't fleeting. It tells them that you can be counted on, that your words align with your actions, and that you're in it for the long haul. Rebuilding respect is a gradual process. It's important to temper your expectations and recognize that you won't see immediate results. Your child may not immediately respond positively, and they might slip back into old patterns of behavior at times. That's normal, and it doesn't mean all your efforts have been in vain. For example, you might set a boundary and enforce it, but your child might push back or test it again the next day. Or you might spend time together trying to reconnect, only for them to seem distant afterward. It's essential to stay patient and not give up when you don't see results right away. The progress is happening, even if it's not immediately visible. Think of building a relationship like planting seeds in a garden. You don't expect flowers to bloom the very first day you plant the seeds. You water them, give them sunlight, and wait patiently as they grow. Similarly, your efforts will gradually yield results, but it takes time and ongoing nurturing. As you work to rebuild respect and communication with your child, it's easy to become frustrated with yourself. Maybe you feel like you should be doing more, or that you should have solved the issue already. But it's important to be patient with yourself as well. Parenting is challenging, and no one has all the answers. The fact that you're actively working to improve the relationship already shows that you care and are doing your best. Don't be too hard on yourself if things aren't perfect. Every conversation, every effort to reconnect, is progress. It's easy to get caught up in wanting immediate results, but remember that long-term change is built on small, consistent actions over time. Now that we've discussed the importance of being consistent and patient, the final reward is the transformation in your relationship. In the next section, we'll explore how this consistent work leads to a more fulfilling, loving, and respectful connection with your child, one that can stand the test of time and weather any storms. This final step is where all your hard work comes to fruition. As we wrap up, it's important to remember that restoring respect and reconnecting with your children is a journey that takes time, effort, and dedication. It's not about expecting overnight miracles, but rather about being consistent in your actions and patient with the process. Rebuilding the relationship and fostering an environment of trust, communication, and affection isn't always easy, but it is absolutely worth it. When you stay committed to these steps, understanding the root causes of the issue, reflecting on your own role, rebuilding communication, setting healthy boundaries, focusing on trust and affection, and being consistent with your patience, the rewards are immeasurable. Over time, your child will begin to recognize that your love for them is unconditional, and your respect for them is unwavering. The relationship will transform from one of tension and frustration to one filled with understanding, connection, and most importantly, mutual respect. The key takeaway here is that the effort you invest today will lead to a stronger, more fulfilling relationship tomorrow. Remember, even though it's hard, this journey can bring you closer than you ever imagined. Now, if you found this video helpful, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the tips and insights, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more helpful advice on family, relationships, and life challenges. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family, because everyone deserves to have the tools to build stronger, more loving relationships with their children. And we'd love to hear from you. Tell us where you're watching from and share your own experiences in the comments below. Are you in the middle of this journey, or have you gone through something similar? We'd love to hear your thoughts and support each other. Thanks again for watching, and remember, the effort you put into improving your relationships today will bring you peace and connection in the future. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.